Coming up in Bella's Teen Talk Show, a young woman who has been molested during her childhood. Now she wants to tell her story and be the voice for the voiceless.
What I never have. Growing up, my mother never have nobody to defend her. Like, everybody come take advantage of my mother.
In 2019, Jamaica recorded 2,623 cases of sexual abuse against children, and that was an increase from 2,347 cases recorded in 2018. These were the cases recorded. There are thousands of children who have been sexually abused and have not come forward for one reason or another. This young lady is a victim of sexual abuse as a child by the hands of the men that should have been her protector. Her father, her grandfather, her uncle, and her cousins all contributed into ruining this queen's life. She struggled. She fought her way through, and today she can lend her voice to others who feel like they're alone. Since the pandemic, there has been an increase in the amount of sexual abuse cases because these children no longer have the school system as their escape. They have to be home with these converted monsters. Remember, the children are our future. These are things that they will never ever forget. They will carry these traumatic experiences through life. And I do hope that this young lady's story will help someone today.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna, and I'm here to share a little of my story with you guys growing up as an abusive child. I'm the third of 6 for my mom and the second of 3 for my father. Growing up, my mother was a single mother and she had life very rough. She could hardly afford to take care of us. So I had an aunt, and she decided to take me and help, just to help out my mom. So I went to live with my aunt and her parents, and a few months after that, my aunt had to move to a different community and, to start her life with her husband, and afterwards she got her own child. So, and she had a job, so that was one of the main reasons she had to move to a different community to live. So I stayed back with her parents. So that's where my life of abuse starts. I was living with my grandmother and other family members. But the head of, they always say the head of the household is the man of the house, right? So I remember one morning, my grandmother went to the spring to catch water, and she left me sleeping. The head of the household was there, and while I was sleeping, I felt something wet sticking in my mouth. When I realized it was the head of the household pushing his tongue inside my mouth, I started crying because that felt so nasty, and it was also something I could not understand because I was actually a baby. Because 5 years old, 4 going into 5, you'll consider that to be a baby. So I remember I told my grandmother what had happened, and I don't know if at the time she believed me, or I don't know, because back then the person was very abusive to my grandmother also. So I don't know if she was afraid of that person. Well, I wouldn't say I don't know if she was afraid. She was. So anyway, like a few weeks passed, and my father came to visit on a weekend, and I remember my grandmother told my father about it, because my grandmother was the only one I told what had happened. So she told my father about it, and instead of him, protect me as his daughter, what he did was give me a beating of my life. I don't know if back in the days we used to play cricket, so we used to make our bats from coconut branches. So I remember we had a bat from the coconut branches, and that was what he used to beat me. And I remember now I was only 5 years old. After that, I remember one time my grandmother gave me dinner to bring to her mother-in-law house, and when I bring it there, the mother-in-law grandson, which is the first individual that stick his tongue in my mouth, son, he was actually the first one that actually raped me. And I remember that day, everything, I felt like my body was tearing apart. I can remember it like it was yesterday. And I felt like my body was like tearing apart, like my body started burning. And to be honest, I can't remember about any blood right now, if there was blood. But that individual was like, he's older than my mother. And I remember he put his hand over my mouth, and he was telling me that I should not worry, and I should, if he ever hear of anybody, if I ever tell anybody, I'm not gonna like what he's gonna do to me. And it wasn't anything wrong that he was doing, and I'm gonna love it. And they try to position your mind to think that it is nothing, that they're not doing anything wrong to you. Anyways, I went back to my grandmother. I did not say anything because I was afraid, because the individual had threatened me. So, like a few weeks after that, my grandmother used to go to the market. So a few weeks after that, she went to the market. Whenever she goes to the market, she will go on a Friday and come back on the Saturday. And my aunt was living in X. I think she would, maybe she was sleeping at my aunt's house. Or back then, a lot of people sleep in the market overnight. So I remember this individual, the first one that stick his tongue in my mouth, I was home alone with him, and I'm sorry, but sometimes when I talk about it or remember it, I still get emotional over it. But I remember this individual pulled me in his room, and he pulled my clothes off, and he started raping me also. When he did that to me, he told me that if I ever tell anybody, he's gonna kill me, and he's gonna kill the person that I tell. So I'm trying to protect myself as a child. That was what I was thinking, that I was protecting my life by not saying anything to anyone. And I thought that I was protecting my grandmother by not saying anything to her either. It continues, and it continues until I was about 6 years old. And I used to pee the bed like every night, and I will get beaten. The least little thing that individual, the head of the old soul, saw me doing, he will slap me in my face. He will do all manner of evil to me. And I remember my father came, and he said he's going to take me to live with one of his aunts in So I was very excited because, like, now as a child, I'm telling myself that, okay, everything's gonna be okay. Nobody's gonna rape me. Nobody's gonna beat me. I'm just gonna be loved, because that's what I wanted. And Mark, I could not tell my mother anything. My mother was living in the same community. I had to pass my mother's house to go to the shop, to go to the post office. And sometime if I stopped by my mother's house and that individual saw me there, Mark, when I go home, I'm gonna get a spanking for that. That's how bad I was abused. And I remember I went instead now to live with this grandaunt, and she didn't have kids of her own, so she had two adopted kids. They were brother and sister, and they were already adults also. And I was a little afraid of the guy first when I just went there, and of my aunt's husband, because I'm coming from somewhere where men are the men that I was supposed to trust, that was supposed to protect me, had raped me before. So it's like, as a child, I'm traumatized. I'm afraid of other male being around me. But anyways, that my grandaunt adopted son, he treated me like I was his little sister. But I remember one time my grandaunt, she went to America for a few months, and her adopted daughter was home, and the helper, because we had an helper that back then. So she and the helper was there, and I overhear them talking about me, and she was telling the helper that she don't like me and other stuff. So me, at that time I was just 8 years old, just turned 8 or 7, going into 8, because I was like 7, the last part of 7 years old. So I decided as a child to pack my stuff and leave, which I did, and nobody stopped me. And there were adults there at the house, because she was an adult, the helper was an adult, and they saw me leaving. Nobody tried to stop me. So I left on my own, and I went to my father, because my father was living in Jackson, and Jackson is like very close to Amstead. So I went to live with my dad. And when I went there, my dad was living alone with my brother, the one that I follow. And I started going to Jackson College School for a few months. But then I remember, like, my father, he was a diabetic person. So there was a lot of things that he would cook that I don't want to eat, and he will beat me to eat it. So I remember turned cornmeal. I hate turned cornmeal until this very day. Turned cornmeal is like a poison to me, because when I remember what I've been through growing up because of turned cornmeal too, I hate it so much. So he used to turn cornmeal like maybe 4 times per week, and I could not eat it. So each time he cook it, I know I'm gonna get a spanking because I'm not gonna eat it. And he's gonna force me, and when I don't eat it, he's gonna slap me in my face, slap me in my side, give me 2 they call those quart bottle, no, gallon bottles. That back then, I don't know if they still have it. They used to have the orange juice. It comes in gallon bottles. So whenever you buy the orange juice and it's finished, we use those as water bottle. So we'll have it full of water. So he will give me 2 gallon bottle of water to hold up above my head, and I'll have to kneel down. And if my hand go down with the bottle, he's gonna slap me in my side, slap me in my face, or just beat the hell out of me. So this was getting so much to me as a child. I was just 8 years old going through all those stuff. And as if that was not enough, he started raping me also. That's my father, the person who's supposed to protect me from everything. The person who's supposed to love me was a person that started to rape me. And I remember like almost every night while living with him, he will take advantage of me. And some night I will try to like wake my brother, but for some reason my brother is always sleeping dead. Like the house could burn down and he would not feel the fire. That's how dead he used to sleep. And I was afraid to tell anybody about this because I was getting raped, I was getting punishment by holding up gallon bottles of water, and I was getting beaten, and I was getting threatened. And I remember one day he said to me that he's gonna lock me in the closet, and I just wanted to feel how it feels, just in case that one day he really locked me in the closet, how it will feel. But when my brother locked me in the closet, I realized that I could still breathe, and there was a hole in the back of the closet. So I'm like, I was praying now for him to lock me in the closet instead of beating me or punishing me with gallon buckets of water to hold. So I remember one night he was raping me, and I started crying so loud, and he had his hand over my mouth and telling me to shut up, to shut up, to shut up. And I was still crying because I was like in temper, and I felt my heart was gonna stop. And I remember there wasn't any street light because we live like the bottom part of Jackson, so there wasn't any. There was a street light by our gate, but it wasn't working at the time, so the place was dark, and I was when I'm telling you I was afraid, I was very afraid of darkness. And we talk about duppy and all this stuff, so kill me dead duppy out a door, so me afraid. So I remember it was a Saturday night. I mean, a lot of you might wondering how comes I can remember stuff from that early age, but I can remember everything like it was yesterday. So it was a Saturday night, and he was raping me. I was crying, and for some reason my brother woke up. But when my brother woke up, he already get off from top of me. So when he saw my brother wake up, he got so upset. So he grabbed me and he pulled me to the back door. It was an high back door, but not that high. And he kicked me through that back door like I was a ball. Like literally kicked me through it, and he said, "Find your effing mother yard." So when he said that, it's like I don't remember nothing that I was afraid. I don't remember nothing about any duppy or anything. I just wanted to go find my mother. And then by the time I reached to the front of the house, he came out through the front door and he grabbed me and he pulled me back in the house and he started beating me. And it continues. I was afraid to talk and say anything because my father also threatened me that if I ever tell anybody, he's gonna kill me. And so Mark, I was raped by the head of the individual in my grandmother's house. I was raped by that head of individual's son and grandson. And then my own father started doing the same thing to me. So, it is very traumatizing for me as a child. And then I could not tell anybody because I was threatened and because I know that my mother could not defend herself in any way possible. So while living with my father, I have marks on my legs right now that my father beat me as a child at 7 years old, at 8 years old, and leave marks on my legs. And I remember one Saturday also he was washing, because he used to wash my clothes. So I had this green and white dress, and I don't know, for some reason some white paint catch the back of the dress, and he asked me how the paint reached on the dress. So I said to him, I'm like, I don't know, Daddy. And he said, how you mean you don't know? And I said, I don't know. But then the veranda had it wasn't cement off, so it had like rocks on the veranda. And he took one of those blocks. It was half a block at that time, like a piece of block, and he fling it after me, and I ran out in the rain. It was raining that Saturday, and I ran out in the rain and I sight the block. Anyways, when I went back in, I knew I was gonna get beaten. I know I was gonna hold a gallon bottle of water up after that beating. And yes, he did. He beat me. And he gave me the gallon bottle of water to hold in the air. And at that time, he had one bottle of gallon water because the other one was finished. So he gave me that bottle to hold, and he gave me a little stool. It was a little board bench that we have inside the house that we used to sit on. So I had to hold a gallon of water in one hand and the bench in the other hand. And I remember my elbows and my shoulders start hurting, so my arms just dropped down. And the moment my arm dropped down, he used his two hands to he hold his two hands like this, and he clapped me in my side, and I felt like my ribs was broken or something. But then I had a granduncle that lived further on up the road, and I think he heard me crying more than one time, and maybe too often. So my granduncle went to him and told him that if he ever hear me crying again and him beating me, he's gonna have to deal with him. So I remember one time I went to visit my grandmother, and then I went up to my mom's house. That time my mom was living in a one bedroom, and it was a bedroom that it was the worst house in the community. The front door couldn't open. The front window, it was on one window, two door. So the front door couldn't open. The window couldn't open. It was under the back door could open, and so when you open the back door, everything will come rolling at you because the house was very lean. And I can remember I tell my mom, I said, Mommy, I want to come and live back with you. And when I tell my mom that, she told me no. Yeah. I'm sorry. She told me no, she could not manage to take me back because she didn't have what to take care of us. So she actually thought that me living with my father was a better life for me. So I started crying, and I said, Mommy, I want to come back and live with you. So she said, okay, I'll think about it. And I felt so happy when she said she will think about it, because in the back of my head, she's going to come and get me. And I remember going back home to my father, and I was just praying that one day my mother would come and get me. And it continues where my father would rape me almost every night as a child, as a baby. And another weekend, I went to look for my grandmother, and I went by my mother's house. and I showed her a cut on my leg, and I said to her that my father beat me and left that cut there, but I couldn't tell her about the rape. And she said to me that somebody from the community where I was living with my father came in the community where my mother was living and told her that she need to come and take me, else she's gonna lose me. Because I guess that person, people know that I was getting beaten, and as a child, there's no child that should be getting those kind of beating or those kind of punishment. And I remember when that Saturday, my mother said to me that she said, Anna, I'm gonna come and take you. So I felt so happy. Like, I felt like I've gotten everything in life that I have ever wanted when she told me that. So the Monday morning, me and my brother went back home to my father's house to get ready to go to school. And I said to him, I said, Daddy, Mommy's gonna come and get me. And he said, what? So he said to me, you wanna go live with her? So I said, yes. And he was ironing our uniform the morning, and he said to me, I have a great mind, take this iron and burn you in your heffing face. So when he said that to me, I didn't really pay it any attention, because all in my mind is that next week Friday my mother is going to come and get me. So I was just praying for that Friday to come. And of course my mother keep her end of the bargain. She came the Saturday after, and she come and she tell him that okay, she's gonna take me back and stuff like that. So I guess he agreed, and I went back to live with my mother. When I went back, Mark, I told her she was on living in a one room that was in a very bad condition. When I went to live with my mom a few months after, I got sick because the house, breeze could come in, rainfall, the entire bed will get wet and stuff. So I got sick from that, and I was in the hospital for like almost 2 weeks. But the sickness didn't matter to me or anything, because now I felt like I was away from my abusers. So I could not tell my mother about me being raped. So I just tell her things like I was punished, I used to get a lot of beating, and I told her that he was forcing me to eat turned cornmeal and stuff. So I don't know, my mother said it to somebody in the community, and it reached back to my grandmother's ears, and then they told my father about it. So one Sunday, they used to have this tank in the community where every Sunday the water truck will come and put water in the tank. And I remember this Sunday, he came the Saturday, and I saw him, and he said to me that he heard that my school bag was tearing up, which it was tearing up for real. And he said to me I should bring it come so he could fix it for me. So I thought that's what he was gonna do. Excuse me, sorry. And on the afternoon, when I went there, my grandmother was sitting on the veranda. My uncle, baby mother, my brother, and somebody else was there. I don't remember now. But he grabbed my hand and he said to me, "Who did you tell that I forced you to eat turned cornmeal?" And I said to him, "Nobody." By the time I said nobody, I got a slap across my face. Like my entire vision went blank, like real dark. I just saw lights blinking in front of me. The entire place was dark, and I fell to the ground. And it was like a pain. I felt pain over my entire face, and I was there until I could able to see again. Because remember, after I got that box, the entire place went dark. And at this time, I was 9 years old. And I remember when I started seeing light again, I got up and I started running. I run. And when I reached by the tank, there almost everybody from out of the community was there catching water. And my mother saw me crying and she asked me what was wrong. I could not talk at the time because I was out of breath and I was crying, and all in my intention was that he was behind me. So after like a minute, I said to her, "Daddy backs me down." And my mother started crying and I remember she said she called on God 3 times. And my cousin house door was open, so I ran out to my cousin house and ran under the bed because I was so scared. And like about 15 minutes afterwards, he came up and my mother asked him why he did that, and he started going off on my mother also. And my cousin went up into his face and she started cursing, and there was this other woman in the community started talking about, oh, they don't know good food, and girl getting turned caramel, and talking about she getting forced to eat is because she don't used to good food, and because they always put down my mother. So as for them, I was getting something good and I didn't want it. So it happened where my mother cried that Sunday. I cried, and everything went back to normal. I did not tell my mother that I was raped or anything, because I could not tell my mother that, because my mother could not defend herself, much less to defend me. So by this, I was going to school, and we didn't have much. Sometimes we don't have dinner, sometimes we don't have breakfast. My mom friend would give us dinner when she cooks sometimes, and that's how we could get something to eat. Or if we're going to school in the morning, my mother would boil the sweet potato and give us the water to drink as tea and the potato to eat as food, which I could not eat. So most of the time I was always hungry, and I was the one that always gets sick because I wasn't eating much. So and then sometimes we don't have breakfast going to school, and we don't have dinner coming home too. And we'll get free lunch at school because my mom would go and ask for the lunch for us. She wouldn't let us ask for it ourselves. She would go and she will ask for it for us. And it goes on. And 1999, now I was still 9 years old, going into 10. Or yeah, I was 9 going into 10, 9 plus. And July of 1999, some white people came and they built my mother a 2-bedroom house, and they fall in love with me, and they decided that they wanted to adopt me. And my mom told them no, that she would prefer to get the help, and maybe when I'm bigger they could take me. So they agreed, and I started getting my books for school, because back then I used to wear barefoot to school because my mother did not have shoes to give us to wear sometime, and I was the only girl in my class. Maybe if any of my classmates watching this, they could say yes, I was the only girl in my class that ever wear barefoot to school.
My mother, she always said she loved my father. So she have to work with him. So she has said, all right, she have to work with him. And I guess in have nowhere to live now, and then my mother get 2 bedroom house and one summer if you can't live. So I don't know when say and trick mommy. And mommy decides, all right, she gonna take him in and them are gonna get married and them are this and that. Girl, that was like a that would feel like when somebody take you up and throw you in a fire and throw gas in the fire. And I start thinking, oh, I say, shit, I'm going to relive everything I'm going to go through. And it so happened that every time, as you know, our church keep prayer meeting also. So every time mommy go on a prayer meeting, I try to find the corner of bed, and my father would have still take me up from the corner of bed and rape me. I remember one night, I don't know if you know, dead, and mommy got the dead yard, and my father take me up the night, and when he raped me, I start ball. Me hear the voices are come and me say, alright, if my mother can't hear me ball, maybe everything can talk out there. So when you realize it's by son that my mother in the crowd too, him stand upside the table and one knife dip on the table and then take the knife and fairly after me, the knife catch me in my shoulder the night. And he said, if God and my don't go on like me in the ball, I have to wipe out my tears, pretend like everything like me not sleep. And it a continue so till I decide to I start to think suicidal. Now I start to think if I go up in an apple tree and put a rope on my neck and jump, or it I go feel if I go dead the same time or what. If I take pill, if I go dead the same time or what. And that's how I start to think, and I write it suicidal note and put it over a window. And my sister find me and I beg her do nothing talk. But she never talk. And it happened that they did it, and I don't know for some reason him and my mother, but you know I can't do it. Him and my mother could agree, and she decides him have to left. And him left one Sunday left too. When the man left, he did have one tomato bed where then sow for go plant and then chop down every sucker before he left.
And he left, and he left with everything that he came with. And that was the happiest. When I tell you the happiest day of my life, that was the happiest day of my life. And I remember after he left, I still couldn't tell my mother what had happened to me. So I used to cry every night, like every single night I used to cry myself to sleep. When my mother asked me what's wrong, I would say nothing, but I'm always in temper, and she was always wondering. But then I started to have this hatred in my heart for my mom, because I started to hate her, because I was thinking, how come she have never seen any sign? How comes she bathed me but I've never noticed anything? As a child, I was thinking all those stuff and then after he left, my mother will curse me every day about my family. So, that helped me to hate her even more. So, after he left, and I was supposed to do GSAT now, and I did not have a birth certificate, if I call the word good, because I can't call words good. But anyways, my mother had some goats, so she sold 2 of the goats, and she got $2,500. When she got that $2,500, I remember tears running down out of her eyes and fell on the money. And back then they didn't have $1,000 bills; it was $500. So she gave it to my father to go and look about my birth certificate, because he was living in Spanish Town at the time. And he took the money and he never looked about the birth certificate. So the time was coming up for me to do GSAT. I could not sit the GSAT because I don't have what to sit the GSAT. So anyways, my his stepmother heard about it, and she paid and got it done. So when she sent it to us, my other family member gave it to me. It was a Monday night, and we used to have young people's meeting at church. So I went to young people's meeting the Monday night, and that individual gave me the one copy of the birth certificate, and I gave it to my mother. My mother said it was supposed to be 2 copies. When I said it to the individual, they asked me, What is my mother doing with 2 copies? Can she read? Because my mother cannot read. Well, thanks be to God, my mother is going back. I'm sending my mother back to school now, right now. So she's in the process of learning how to read, and she's doing good so far. So they did not give us the other copy. They only gave us one. So I sat the GSAT. I did not pass my GSAT.
And he left we had a basic nursing commander, and I tell the girl, I start pray, I start beg God to kill him. When I have 14, he's sick worse. In a out of hospital, in a coma, out of coma, blind, everything. That's bad. I'm start beg God for kill him. I start to wonder, say, if me poisoning, if people will find out, say, I'm midway, I start to think all kind of things. But in the midst of everything, I pray as a child, and I beg God to take him. And girl, I tell you, say, God answer my prayer 2004. God to wipe him out.